Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome on the Newshour at 9. After weeks of deliberations and suspense over the Class 12 board exams, the centre today has put an end to the certainty. In a meeting chaired by Prime Minister Narendra Modi and senior ministers in the government, including Home Minister Mr. Amit Shah and Defence Minister Rajnath Singh, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman, Petroleum Minister Mr. Dharmendra Pradhan and INB Minister Prakash Javadekar, finally a call was taken, and the call was to suspend and cancel the Class 12 CBSE board exams. Soon after that announcement, the ICSE boards have also decided to cancel the exams for the Class 12 students, and the Prime Minister noted that health and safety of students would be of paramount importance, and anxiety amongst them must come to an end, given the fact that students have been waiting now for weeks to get a final decision of whether they will be going in for exams in crowded examination centers or not. The decision has been welcomed by almost all quarters of the society, and it's a huge vindication for Times Now, which has put up the concern of student safety, of the safety of invigilators and families of students which would have been exposed given the seriousness of the second wave of COVID-19. Let me highlight some of the crucial observations made by the Prime Minister during the meet. The Prime Minister said decision on Class 12 examinations was taken in the interest of the students. Health and safety of our students is of utmost importance. No compromise on the health and safety of students. Anxiety among students, parents and teachers must be brought to an end. We should not force students to appear for exams in stressful situation, because clearly that will not be the optimum environment in which students should be put through these exams of a lifetime, as they are called. And all stakeholders need to show sensitivity towards our students. That is really the basis on which the Prime Minister took this call. Ecstatic students welcomed the move and thanked Prime Minister Modi for listening in to their voice. But some are saying their hard work have gone for a toss. Clearly, students feeling a bit of both relief and a little bit of a letdown, and some anxiety on what the criteria will be to declare them as passing their Class 12. Listen to some reactions of students that came.
ठीक भी हुआ है, गलत भी हुआ है. एक्चुअली हमारा मतलब इतना सारा प्रिपरेशन किया वो भी वेस्ट गया है, बट एक सेफ्टी के मेजर से देखा जाए तो ये हमारे लिए ठीक भी है.
मेरे हिसाब से एग्ज़ाम कैंसिल हो गई, ये बहुत अच्छी बात है, क्योंकि हमारी हेल्थ सबसे फर्स्ट प्रायोरिटी पे आती है. और मैं थैंक करना चाहूँगी जिसने भी एग्ज़ाम कैंसिल करे हैं. और इंटरनल असेसमेंट के बेसिस पे हमारे मार्क्स लग सकते हैं, और काफ़ी हमारे प्रैक्टिकल्स वगैरह हुए हैं, उन पे भी लग सकते हैं, हम प्रमोट हो सकते हैं आगे.
सर थोड़ा सा बुरा ही हुआ है, क्योंकि जो हमने पढ़ा इतने 2 सालों में, तो अब लास्ट में आके कह रहे हैं कि ये हो गया, कैंसिल हो गया, तो हमारी तो मेहनत पानी फिर गया ना हमारी मेहनत पे.
बच्चे ऐसे ही पास हो गए सारे. हमने जो पढ़ा था इतने साल वो हुआ नहीं कुछ. तो जैसे ऑनलाइन स्टडीज़ वगैरह हो रही थी, तो वैसे ही ऑनलाइन एग्ज़ाम भी ले सकते थे ये, पर इन्होंने उसका सोचा नहीं.
But even as there was a sense of relief among students, a credit war already has broken out as far as the opposition is concerned. In fact, the Congress party has tweeted that it was sound advice of Mr. Rahul Gandhi and Priyanka Gandhi Vadra on which this decision should have been taken and was taken at the earliest. And therefore, the legitimate question continues to be tonight: should we worry about the criteria for students, or should we really be involved in a credit war? That's the question and the debate coming up on the other side.
You're watching the News Hour at 9. Debate number 1 on Times Now. Super Prime Time.
And breaking news coming in in right at top of the news hour. We have news coming in from our sources in the government. Megha Prasad joins me live. Also joining me tonight is Nikunj Garg, Internal Security Editor. Megha, you have some information on what the criteria on which the results for the cancelled 12th exam students will be based on. Please do give our viewers a sense, and students who are currently waiting to know what will be the criteria based on which their results will be declared.
Well, at this point in time, what we can tell you for sure is that they are in fact deliberating upon a lot of different patterns that have been, that has been thrown up actually in these wider consultations. So at this point in time, perhaps Nikunj is going to have a little more on this one. But what we are being told is that the Prime Minister's instruction was just this, to ensure that whatever pattern needs to be arrived at finally happens in a time-bound manner, so that the children are able to get their results in time for them to apply for universities abroad and within the country. So yes, while the CBSE has given out at least 2 or 3 different ways in which the assessment, the internal assessment can be done, that final call will be taken perhaps sometime either tonight or tomorrow, most likely, given the fact that you did not have the HRD Minister as part of the meeting today with the Prime Minister since he was unwell and at AIMS. So the final touches are being given. In some time, perhaps we will have a little more, but CBSE did prepare at least 2 or 3 different options, which is presented before the Prime Minister also today, taking into various different aspects, be it the internal assessments, be it the practicals, be it the pre-boards. There are various ways in which they have arrived at a final conclusion that this could be the best way to assess them without going in for an offline examination.
Well, so 3 or 4 different ways. One is taking an average of 9th, 10th and 11th results. Second option being looked at is the pre-board exams. Third option being looked at is some internal assessments that will be made. Well, the CBSE is studying all of these options and will come out with a final decision. Also, more breaking news coming in on the competitive exams. Nikunj Garg has more details on that. Nikunj, what is the government's view as far as competitive exams, especially like JEE, are concerned? Because many students in class 12 have to apply for IITs, regional engineering colleges. What is the government thinking on criteria and holding of these exams?
Well, Navika, I'm glad that you bring the focus back somewhat. I know that Class 12th exam is a milestone exam in any student's education journey. But remember, the purpose of setting up the special group of ministers under the chairmanship of Mr. Rajnath Singh was twofold. It was not limited to only Class 12th exam. Of course, that was the elephant in the room. But National Testing Agency that conducts most of the exams for the institutes of higher learning also has to take a call, and other competitive exams, as you mentioned, have also got pushed back. So therefore, a call has to be arrived at them also. Largely what the view in the government has emerged, other than the Class 12 exams annulment, is the fact that once the situation improves, because the number involved in these exams are not to the scale of Class 12 exams, and preparations for them can be done in a much more elaborate manner because they are completely delineated from any school apparatus or school administrative managements. So those exams are most likely to go ahead, and they will go ahead once the coronavirus wave ebbs, and once a large chunk of that community also is vaccinated, at least with 1 dose of any kind of vaccine that is available in the country at that point in time. So those exams are much more likely to go ahead at a time when the situation is conducive, according to the government, and with bulk of the student, teacher, parent community being vaccinated, Navika.
Well, thank you, Nikunj, for those very, very important news points that you make. Yes, the government still has the mind of getting these competitive exams held. Timing still not decided, and that is where possibly students will have some concerns till they have a final idea of this. Going across to our panel tonight, joining me tonight, Tuhin Sinha, spokesperson of the BJP, Mohan Das Pai, chairman, Arayan Capital Partners. Also joining me tonight is Professor Simrat Kaur, Principal of SRCC, Dr. Jyoti Gupta, Director and Principal of DPS Saibabad and KR Mangalam School. Also joining me tonight is Dr. Sumanth Raman and Ghansham Tiwari, spokesperson of the Samajwadi Party. But my first questions go to our students this evening. And our first student on the panel tonight is, we have Sapriya Sharma, but Samarveer Chandar also joining us this evening, Class 12 student. Samarveer, how do you look at the decision taken by the government today to cancel Class 12 CBSE board exams? Are you relieved, or do you have some concerns still remaining?
I am relieved that the exams have been cancelled, but I am a little concerned about the assessment method that they will implement to figure out our final marks in order to get us into universities. The past 3-year assessment system might not work for 12th because everyone has chosen their streams in 11th. And before that, in 9th and 10th, we had subjects maybe in which we were not good. So that method might not work for our college admissions.
All right. And Sapriya Sharma, do you agree with Samarveer? Do you think the average is something that shouldn't be done simply because most students take their class 11 exams at least lightly, and the seriousness actually comes in class 12, and therefore any nervousness on that count?
First of all, I definitely do agree with the fact that there has been a partial sense of relief, since we no longer have to worry about having to risk our lives for the sake of conduction of our exams and putting our loved ones at risk at the same time. And with that being said, however, of course, there are still concerns with respect to what the evaluation system will be and how we will be tested for college admissions at the same time, since those still remain a huge concern for our future. However, with respect to the evaluation possibilities that you just mentioned, I think while it is fair to say that, of course, for the larger majority, 12th grade exams are something that all students bank on and have been told to bank on throughout their school life. So if the ideal way to go about it would be to come up with an evaluation system that distributes its weightage, with major weightage being given to the examinations that have been conducted throughout this year, that is the 12th academic year, instead of the previous years. And if they do choose to give some weightage to the previous years as well, then only some part of it should be given to grade 11th. And since 11th was, once again, as the student before
Fair
me mentioned.
point.
Yeah.
Fair point, Sapriya Sharma. Also joining me tonight is Himanshi, again a student from class 12. Himanshi, are you relieved? Would you actually feel that not having exams in these times with the second wave of COVID-19 somewhere is a little bit of relief for students, and also the ending of the suspense, the bigger relief for students today?
Absolutely. Both of them are a big win for us. And I would like to thank the Prime Minister that he has taken a decision taking into priority the students' health and safety. And I would also like to thank Times Now for running this campaign and making sure that student voices are heard. But along with all of this, I would say that the battle is not over yet. Until we know how we are being assessed, until we've been told what that objective criterion will be, we are still in a state of anxiety, because now it is about what will you get in your 12th grade board exams, what will your result be, how much percentage have you scored. So we are just waiting for CBSE or the government to give us an objective criterion, so that accordingly we will all know. And as rightly mentioned by Sapriya, that they should take into account the exams that have happened this year, and they should take into account the exams that have happened in the past, especially the 10th grade exams, because that was a national exam that all of us have given. So taking into account your 10th grade board exams as well as your performance in the 11th grade, and most weightage should be given to your performance in the 12th grade. And the devil is always in the details, so we are awaiting the circular from CBSE.
Well, enduring that statement, Dr. Jyoti Gupta, you've seen children of class 12 in your schools and look at the anxiety levels, because our education system has made this entire class 12 as such a big milestone exam that we don't count our class 5, 6, 7, 8. What is actually put is a lot of burden on students for their class 12 performance, especially because that's when they get into the college status, and they're now worried because in class 11, they've had this batch of children has had an awkward year. Last year in class 11, not too much of school happening at that time, and then class 12 going down in a virtual washout. How do you address the anxiety levels, given the fact that now there is a weighted system and possibly somewhere there will be questions that will remain in their minds?
So the anxiety that the children have, I agree, is very, very high at this point of time. But we as educators and their parents and we in school have to constantly talk to them, and we have to tell them that, whatever happens at the end of the day, it's going to be a fair assessment for them, because it's important that their safety and security is given the prime importance. At the same time, it is also important that they get a fair assessment, because the public memory is very short. The pandemic is going to get over in some time, maybe this year, maybe early next year, and the assessment of their class 12 is going to stay for them, with them for a number of years. So there should not be any distinction that should be made with these children where their credits or their mark sheets are concerned. It should not be that 15 years from now or 10 years from now, when there is some weightage given to the class 10th and class 12th, and it does happen even in certain careers, in certain jobs, when they have the campus placements, etc. It should not be, you were the one who gave the exam in you were to give the exam in 2021, so you are not eligible for applying here. So that kind of stress still remains with the children. Also, another stress that the children are talking about, the assessment of 10th marks being counted, 11th marks being counted. I think it's not fair to take in the assessment of previous years, because 10th, there are certain children who struggle with the sciences and mathematics. The moment it is out of their way, they really do well with the subjects of liberal arts. They really do well with, the vocational subjects. So the idea is that whatever assessments the children have gone through in 11th and in 12th, and the schools have been, the teachers have been teaching them, be it be online, be it be offline, even when, the end of the year in 11th, when East Delhi was having problems in CAA, or there were other problems because of which the exams were cancelled. In fact, they were cancelled because of the COVID in the end. So the internal teachers know the children very well. So the way they've been marking in class 11, the way they've been assessing the children in class 12, that should be taken care of. And majorly the children have given the practical exams also. So the practical exams marks should also be considered. They should also be taken into account. So once you give this assurance to the children that it's going to be a fair assessment and you are not going to lose out, I think their anxiety levels do come down. The children are here. I'm sure they can collaborate and they can...
That is a very, very important point, and let me get in Mohandas Pai on this. Mohandas Pai, I want to ask you, this whole thing about a board exam, about external marking, about, some other invigilators looking and checkers looking at your paper, that somehow has replaced the school teacher's assessment of students. Now, in a situation like this, what do you do? What do you do? Because, previous years, as she says, in class 10, unfair because you have all subjects in class 10 and students, choose their streams after class 10. And therefore, the subjects that they like or perform better in haven't really been, given their full potential in class 10. And some I get calls from mothers and parents of a lot of boys that girls are serious. Boys just don't study in class 11. They only look at class 12 and wake up as if it's a new morning. So how do you address this problem?
Navika, you and I and all of us, barring the school children, have been through this, where we used to wake up the night before the exam and in a dream and wonder what is going to happen, and one exam in the year makes or fate, right, for the whole year and the whole career ahead. And you remember all the palpitations we went ahead with, our parents trying to wake us up in the morning and do all that. Now, the new education policy should have these reforms. My personal view is, like the headmistress said, you must take 11 and 12, not 10, because 10 is very different. And 11 maybe give only 30% weightage, and give 12 maybe 70% weightage. So the question of boys not taking it seriously will also be addressed. Because, in this country, girls have been doing very well, but we can't leave the boys behind. Boys are also needed in India. Girls are more in college today, but boys are also needed. So I think we have to commit a formula. But the more important thing, Navika, is we will address this, but we have to make sure that all the young people who are going to sit for the NEET exam and other exams get their COVID shots. About 2 crore young people pass class 10 in this country. 2 crore. 60%, 70, 80% pass. That is about maybe 1.6 crore, and they go to class 11 and 12. So out of 1.6 crore, maybe 1 crore may sit for NEET. I mean, there's the outside number at Delhi University or all these colleges where you don't get seats. Now, we must ensure in the next 1 or 2 months that all of them get COVID injections because they'll be past 18. 12th standard means you're past 18. And we must make sure that the tests are held on time and they're protected. So I think we need a formula now. But in the new education policy in the future, we must make sure that our fate does not depend on one exam. COVID has shown everybody the danger of one single exam. Navika, remember, many young people fell ill at the exam. Their whole year was spoiled. Remember that? Some of our classmates fell ill. They could not come. They had some events. All that tension should go away. The new education policy should take up the wake-up call. But I fully support the headmistress who came before me to say that 11 and 12, my suggestion is 30% weightage for 11, 70% for 12, because, like you said, we don't want the boys to be left behind. Boys are important too. And girls will always go ahead. And then we must get prepared for the NEET. I think now the road is ahead. At least we don't want to risk our children's health.
Absolutely. Let me welcome Principal of SRCC, Dr. Sumanth Kaur, joining the broadcast. Dr. Sumanth Kaur,
yes, ma'am.
Both exams have been cancelled. Competitive exams, the jury is out, and we are getting information that some sort of an inoculation system should be built for those wanting to go in for the competitive exams for future admissions, whether it is NET or JEE, what have you. There will have to be some sort of a vaccination policy for them, for the invigilators, and in fact that was the breaking news that we put out, that's exactly what the government is doing. But I want to ask you, Ms. Sumanth Kaur, how do you get students admitted into colleges like yours in the Delhi University, for example? Colleges that just looked at class 12 exams and had a formula of the cutoff marks. How do you assess students in this period? Because it's always been a problem. State boards mark differently. CBSE has a different way of marking students. ICSE has a different way of marking students. How do you bring them on a percentile basis and judge them and admit them? What will universities now have to do?
Thank you so much, Navika. I think today the decision is out, but yes, we have to handle the implications part of it. One, most of the discussion was already on it in terms of what would be the evaluation criteria for assessing the student. And the second implication would be how do we admit these students? Under this, allow me to bifurcate into 2 streams. One would be those set of students who have to write an entrance-based exam, something like engineering or medical. And therefore, for them, being assessed in whatever way the government is going to think about will not be having so much of an implication on their career because they're looking at an entrance-based system. But then comes the other set of system, which you very rightly mentioned, are the students for whom admissions to higher progression in the education domain is primarily based upon the marks that they get in class 12. Undoubtedly, the systems today are also not that standardized. Different universities, different setups, different boards have different kinds of evaluations of students of class 12. When it comes to Delhi University, there are certain criteria basis which the grades are multiplied either by a 9.5 or a 10, depending upon from where the student is coming. And sometimes there are also some marginal decrease in marks if a student is securing 100% in a particular paper of a particular board. So those kind of things are there. But nonetheless, now the important question is, which is going to be both from the student perspective and as well as the institution perspective. Allow me to speak first from the institution perspective, ma'am. Supposing SRCC has a cutoff, which is at 99.75. But above this, we have only 500 seats. But the number of students who are assessed based upon whatever criteria is coming, let us say there are 1,500. So if we have announced 99.75, everybody above this has to be taken in. There is absolutely no way that we can allocate the excess number of seats to the limited number of seats that we have. So what do? Therefore, we may propose to the university that there should be some amount of percentage which should be given to the colleges, wherein you can have your subjective criteria of assessing the students under the present circumstances. But once again, being friendly to the students, we would not want that the student who's planning to take a commerce or an economics, and there are 70 such colleges, let's say in Delhi University, to appear for 70 virtual interactions. So let there be a centralized system of evaluating, because ultimately, ma'am, what is most important is a standardized way. And today, when schools are going to be assessing students based upon whatever criteria, first thing we want is whatever criteria, in no way a particular school should be now answering or coming up with a result which is higher than the average of the past 3 years. Because the moment you do that, then all the schools are going to be doing that. And the entire system becomes a very lenient or a soft marking system. And secondly, I would say students who are a little worried from the side that, oh God, they were preparing the whole year. They thought that admission to Delhi University would be based upon their class 12. I think it's not so much of a wrong time for them to be worrying about. Your internals will automatically reflect your sincerity because your objective was to get admissions based upon your class 12. So I'm sure that your continuum in terms of your marking would be reflected.
So, Ghanshyam Tiwari, I know you've worked with students in the past, and today I want you to wear your hat as an educationist and respond to some of these concerns that students have. Number one, are you satisfied that this is the best way forward by cancellation of the board exams? And what is your suggestion for a criterion based on which these exams and these Class 12 students can now be judged on in terms of their marks, their grades for future admissions?
Well, first and foremost, I want to tell the students that it's a moment of relief for the students as well as parents. And those of you who are thinking that you studied so much...
I think you're on mute.
First and foremost, I want to congratulate the students who are now relieved. If you can hear me clearly.
Tiwari. Dr. Sumanth Raman, why don't you take that question?
Navika, there are just 2 points that I wanted to make on this issue. And I think the principal of SRCC put it very well. First of all, the government must make a categorical announcement about the fate of the entrance exam, so that at least one set of students will know that whatever be the evaluation criteria, they are not going to be primarily impacted by that. I think that's very important, because instead of affecting 100% of the students, whatever formula is worked out, it will not be fair to somebody or the other. This matter will eventually end up in the court, and everybody knows that the courts eventually will have to decide and come up with some kind of a formula, because some students would have a valid reason for challenging this. So my request is, one, let the government categorically announce that the entrance exams will be held no matter what. That takes the heat off, a sizable portion of the students. They really wouldn't bother about these marks after that. The second block is what happens to those who depend only on these marks. Now, I have another matter of concern. Would the marks which are held or for exams which are held in earlier years, except the board, would they necessarily be available with the CBSE is that data already available? Now, if it is not available, then what is to prevent schools from doing pretty much what they want with the in a post facto basis? So can that also needs to be taken into account? Because I did read an article somewhere which said that schools have now been asked to submit the 11th standard marks of all the students to the board. Now, schools could just use this opportunity to hike and give their students a much better deal than other schools. So how does one work with this? So I think that there is a problem, and whatever solution comes, the matter will go to court. But I just hope that the government at least protects those students who primarily want to go through the entrance exam system for this 1 year.
Well, already Sumanth Raman is talking about a matter going to courts. Tuhin Sinha, how do you respond? Already वो कह रहे हैं, after so much of anxiety when a decision has been taken, he is already talking about whatever is the criteria that you decide, the matter will go to court. So now administration governance will only be done through courts. That is Dr. Sumanth Raman's concern.
Which doesn't go to the court, so we can't be worried about that when we take a decision. I think at this point of time we have the decision very clearly. The decision to cancel the exams very clearly proves that nothing holds more importance to us at this stage than ensuring the safety and protection of the younger generation. In fact, I would like to congratulate Times Now for the initiative that you have taken, because I was on your show last Friday with Rahul Shiv Shankar, and on that show we were given to understand, based on a report by Madhav Das, your correspondent, that the centre was planning to go ahead with the exams. Even on that show, I had very clearly stated that this government is not so predictable. We will take a decision based in the best interest of the students, and you need to wait till the first. And I'm glad the decision has been taken. The only thing over here is that we don't like to begin with a no. There are political parties like the Aam Aadmi Party which profess their love to students, but then they also support the Kisan Andolan, the farcical Kisan Andolan, which doesn't have any impact. We wanted to explore all options, which we did. And in the end, we just felt that, the odds were too heavy weighing against it. But at this point of time, by default, this might just also pave the way for reforms which have been pending over the years, and which is the best thing to happen. And just one last point, it's not just about these 12,18,000 students who were registered for CBSE exams. It's also about their parents, their family members, because all of them would have been put at risk. It is also about ISC students, because ISC immediately after that announced a similar decision to cancel the exams. It is also about the state boards which in all likelihood would announce a similar decision. So I'm sure lakhs of families today would be heaving a sigh of relief, and it's a great moment for the country. Going ahead, I'm sure
Ghanshyam Tiwari, already credit wars are going on. But I want to ask you, on a serious note, when you have the Congress party, whose first reaction is not about the students, the welfare of the students, their families, their first reaction is, "Arey bhai, Rahul Gandhi ne bola tha." But this decision that has been taken by the Prime Minister, being advised by such a senior battery of union ministers, The fact is that you have to look at every single option on the table. It's not easy to say don't have exams for class 12 students, because this is, at least in the current way that our education system is placed, it is a milestone exam which prepares you for admissions into your professional training colleges, number one. And number two, you have to explore all options. You can't just, have year after year where class 12 students are not giving their final year of exams, in their final year of school. So, having taken this decision, number one, would you congratulate the Prime Minister for putting safety above everything? Safety not just of students, also their parents, also their families, and of the invigilators, the teachers, the checkers, the support staff that would be required, people who would be on duty for security, all sorts of things that will come along with the students going in for exams. Do you think this is something that has been taken rightly at the right time?
Well, Navika, it is heartening to see the relief among parents and students as this decision is taken. While I do see a battery of cabinet ministers and the Prime Minister and various politicians commenting, I don't think it takes so many politicians to come together to take a decision. I would rather be happy to see a number of educationists come together and take a decision, because actually the foundation of this decision is not just the crisis of pandemic that we face. The foundation of this decision should also be what the government has taken as a leap forward with the new education policy. The fixation in India about one exam that everybody takes at a certain time that becomes the founding stone for their career ahead is a false fixation. It creates an expensive road to nowhere in our education system. It's an opportunity to create certificate-based systems in class 11th and 12th, that you can take a certain set of certifications, and a collective set of certifications qualify you in class 11th and qualify you in class 12th. The government should use this opportunity to make this transformation, which is already envisioned in their own education policy that they have introduced with much fanfare. And that will lead to an opportunity for colleges to expand their ability to serve more students. A good college like SRCC using tech should be able to offer more seats than just 500. And because for most domains, the first year of college is similar. For all engineering colleges, the first year of college is similar. So even if you are not able to have the entrance examination conducted in this year, you can offer the same first year to every student and have an entrance exam in the second year and decide which student goes to which college, which branch. There is a great opportunity in India to think innovatively, in tune with the future that we see, use technology, use a systematic certificate-based model, and ensure that our education system is not a anxiety-based road to nowhere, expensive road to nowhere. We can definitely make more students successful.
I completely agree with you. For once, Mr. Ghansham Tiwari, I couldn't agree with you more, because really, we need to look at our education system way more innovatively than we have in the past. I've seen it with two of my children on how class 12 has been the biggest nightmare of their lives, and maybe 5 years down the line, they don't even realize why they were so anxious about these exams. But there's just one point that you made, and let me get in the sense of humor of Mohandas Bhai. Mohandas Bhai, Ghansham Tiwari, while said everything in favor of students and fantastic ideas for looking at our education system, there's one point that he just had to make, DNA issues, I think. He said, why was the Prime Minister sitting with a battery of union ministers? He could have, done this alone with other educationists. Do you think this is the same person who actually in the past has said, just yesterday in a debate, that the Prime Minister takes all decisions alone? He doesn't need his advisors, and all his advisors perform badly but use his popularity to get through. You see a contradiction there?
Well, Ghansham Tiwari, spoke very well on education. I'm so happy he's standing up for the students. But, he has to be true to his profession, right? And he has to make comments or expect it. And I'm sure, this is something that he will like doing. He has to do that. But the important thing, Navika, is taking a decision like postponing a national exam has to be done with consultations with everybody. Because like the other panelist said, Dr. Sumanth Raman said, that, there are other ramifications in future. the impact of all that is going to be felt, and the impact has to be studied. So I think it's a good discussion at the end of it. I'm sure they consulted a lot of academics, a lot of headmistresses, schools also to come to this conclusion. And of course, I'm so happy. Ghanshyam Tiwari always speaks.
Absolutely. And at the end of the debate, I must have the final word from my two young friends, both students of Class 12 today, hopefully feeling a little relieved. Sapriya, to you first, you think good decision taken on time has spared you a little bit of anxiety?
Definitely. I think the decision came better late than never. And definitely a huge part of relief has been given, as previously mentioned, with respect to our lives and our lives of our loved ones. And we have no option but to be hopeful of what the future decisions will be.
And Himanshi, are you relieved too? Was it a big issue of discussion every day at the dining table with your parents?
Yes, it was a really big issue of discussion every day. And like Sapriya mentioned, better late than never. We are very relieved that this decision has been taken. But I would like to end it by saying that we are still waiting for the objective criterion, and it is not over until we know how we will be assessed.
Oh God, have you heard that, Dr. Jyoti Gupta and Simrat Kaur? Children still worried about the criteria and what their future is going to be all about. My heart goes out to you. Keep watching Times Now. We're here for you. We'll try and make this as easy as we can by standing with you, for you, fight for you, and we'll get you all the latest developments on the news on these criteria, which you're going to be so worried about. Well, give the worries to us, and you guys have a nice, relaxed evening today and do what you like to do. We'll be back tomorrow with more information on what these criteria will be, and hopefully will safeguard your interests by appealing to the policymakers. Thank you very much to all my panelists for joining me on this big debate on 12th boards cancelled. Taking a short break, more on the other side.